Thank you for joining us for this joint committee on public safety, intergovernmental and military affairs, and our good friends from the Committee on Judiciary. It's 3 o'clock this Friday, April 14th in room 225. This hearing is being streamed live on YouTube. If we have any kind of technical issues, we will let you know and make a public notice as to when we are going to reconvene. We're asking everyone to allow to keep their testimony to a minute or under. We have one measure on this agenda, that is House Concurrent Resolution 23 HT1 regarding a Correctional System Oversight Commission and a task force to look at minimum terms of imprisonment. On our testifiers list, we have Thomas Berger has submitted testimony in support, Pamela Ferguson Bray.
Yes, right. On the minutes, David, that's faster than usual. You have our testimony. We recommend that there be some changes to the resolution to ensure that it doesn't convey predetermined outcomes. And also, we think it's really important for representatives from the domestic violence, sex assault, and impaired driving community to be on the panel. They certainly, we hear all the time about issues and concerns about sentencing for sex assault, impaired driving, and domestic abuse cases. Those experts really have the information about those types of cases, and they get it day to day by hearing from victims. So I have examples of those types of issues if the committee is interested, but I think it would really give the public a lot more confidence in the outcome. It's a really big change, and to not be informed about what the impact is going to be on sex assault victims, domestic violence victims, and impaired driving victims is, I think it's a mistake to not include that really, really valuable viewpoint. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Pamela. Fred Hoon from the Paroling Authority has submitted testimony support. Charlotte Carter Yamauchi from LRB has submitted commentary. James Tobbit may be joining us via Zoom. Oh. Thank you, James.
Good afternoon, Senator Wakai, Chair Wakai, Chair Rhodes, Vice Chair Alfonte, Vice Chair Gabbard, and Senators. James Tobbit, State Public Defender. My office supports this resolution of the 33 states that have an indeterminate sentencing system. Only Hawaii uses the parole board to set the minimum term. And so either Hawaii knows something that other 32 don't, and quite frankly, that's a possibility. But chances are there might be a better way. And so therefore we urge this, both committees to pass this resolution. And before I leave, I just want to thank the Hawaii Correctional Oversight System Oversight Commission for agreeing to lead this task force if one is created. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Tobbit. Martha Torney.
Martha Torney with the Oversight Commission. I just asked that you make one correct an error of omission on this bill. If you read the committee report from the House Committee on Judiciary and Hawaiian Affairs, their intent was to say that the Hawaii Correctional System chair or designee, and they left out the words designee in the body of this resolution. So we just asked you to correct that. Thank you. Thank you, Martha.
Kat Brady via Zoom.
Not present on Zoom, Chair.
Okay. Carrie and Shirota also on Zoom from ACLU.
Aloha, Chair Wakai, Chair Rhodes, and members of the committee. Carrie Ann Shirota from the ACLU of Hawaii. We strongly support this measure for a number of the reasons articulated in our written testimony, but we just like to highlight a few. Number one, the process is that we are an outlier in terms of allowing the HPA to set minimum terms of imprisonment compared to other states. The second part of it is that, this relates to issues of liberty and when someone is eligible for parole consideration. In making these determinations, we believe that it's important and integral for HPA or if this becomes delegated to judges to consider evolving criminal justice reform. There are evidence best practices within the field of corrections and sentencing, and we think that it's important for lawmakers to take into consideration two critical facts. One, that our jails and prisons are severely overcrowded, and this has been going on for decades, and that other states that have invested in evidence-based decarceration strategies, from pretrials to all the way through in the criminal justice system, have significantly reduced their populations. And second, that nearly 95% of all people who are incarcerated will be released. They'll come home, they'll be living next to us, their children will go to school for us. So we need to figure out ways that we can invest in evidence-based practices without jeopardizing public safety. And third, it's so important for this task force to convene and to really take a look at the efficacy of this current system, again, and whether it's better to be delegated to judges. For example, is the Hawaii HPA—
Carrie, can you summarize?
Sure. And I want to highlight that we all know that there are racial disparities within our system. We don't know at this point if Native Hawaiians and other Pacific Islander groups are being set higher sentencing minimum compared to other groups. And so in a matter of fairness and equity, we support this task force honing in on these issues. Thank you so much for the opportunity to testify.
Thank you, Ms. Shirota. Kenneth Lawson has submitted testimony in support. Dennis Dunn.
Since we're on the 1 minute time limit, I won't introduce myself. I think most of you know me, the retired director from the Victim Witness Support Services. Testifying really highlighting two issues in my testimony, how my written testimony. First is that I have some concern that the tenor and language of the whereas clauses, the preface for this particular resolution, seems to suggest that because Hawaii is an outlier in sentencing structure, our procedures are wrong or less effective than other states. I would suggest that the language be reflect to make sure that the task force is examining the critical issue and that outcomes are not predetermined. What is not referenced in this preference is that other states identified may very well have both higher crime rates and recidivism rates than Hawaii, something that we would surely want the task force to examine when considering their approach to the topic to be reviewed. I do admit I don't always agree with the paroling authority, but I do have respect for their procedures. They have very clear guidelines. The courts do not have any sentencing guidelines in Hawaii. In addition, when they give their minimums, each of the inmates gets their programming that they need to do. The second issue, as I noted in my second part of my testimony, is I do believe that there needs to be more representation of victims groups on this task force. When I was on the Penal Code Review Committee, that they failed to do that. But Judge Ahn, at that time, a circuit court judge, in his wisdom, invited different victims groups, as I mentioned, domestic violence, sexual assault, as well as mothers against drug driving, be included so that all of these perspectives, in particular because some of these groups have before been critical and concerned about sentencing practices in the courts. Thank you for the time and opportunity. I appreciate it. And if you have any questions, I'll be available.
Thank you, Mr. Dunn. Angelina Mercado has submitted testimony and commentary, and Lynn Cosales Matsuoka also commentary. Is there anyone in the room or online that would like to testify on HCR 23? If not, members, any questions? Callum, quick question. If I heard correctly, when you're testifying, you were pretty prescriptive about adding victims of crimes onto this task force. I think you were talking about those who are victims of sex assault, drunk driving, and the like. ACLU is kind of in agreement because they say that they should have two members that have experienced criminal justice system. Should we be prescriptive, as you have outlined, to say these specific types of victims, or can we go with the ACLU to say, okay, as long as you have two individuals that have been victimized by crime?
No, I believe they all have very different and distinct concerns and experiences with the criminal justice system. You know, just I have to read the newspaper about negligent homicide cases. But, you know, just a long series of them about concerns that victims have about getting into the court system, stuff being charged, sentencing, domestic abuse. You know, the coalitions lobby about different changes in the statutory systems to address problems and issues that they see that are different. I think what Dennis said too is that, you know, the uniformity, there are no guidelines for these cases that judges have to follow, where they're all clearly with the paroling authority. I was trying to think of a you know, good case examples, and I guess, you know, the one I thought of, you know, nationally was the swimmer in California who sexually assaulted a woman who was unconscious, and the judge sentenced them to like 6 months in jail because didn't want to negatively impact the offender, and then he served half the time. So, I mean, that's what these different groups see time after time, is disparate sentencing by different judges, and the experiences are different. Their knowledge base is different. They're hearing from their specific victims. So you look at the number of people on the panel, there's 5 people from the defense bar. There's somebody from the defense bar, 4 different representatives from criminal defense lawyers. So it wouldn't really skew, it doesn't really skew the panel in any different way. It just informs them about the experience that victims are having in the system, and in sentencing, and historically what we've seen through time.
I'm just a little weary about being so prescriptive. I mean, people are going to say, well, I'm a victim of assault. I'm a victim of catalytic converter theft or what have you. I should be represented here. And if we delineate specific crimes that we need victim representation on, that just might make this thing so unwieldy.
I think that there's a reason there's a sex assault coalition. There's a reason there's a domestic abuse coalition. There's a reason Mothers Against Drunk Driving exists, is because of the unique and special problems that victims in each of these categories have experienced in Hawaii's system. So I think that it is a very different type of calculus because of that.
Sure, Rose.
Mr. Comments, I want to thank. So, yeah, you mentioned in your testimony that you weren't really sure whether getting rid of our current system was a good thing or a bad thing. Do you happen to know who? There's 33 other states. Do they congregate on the conservative side? Or are they all liberal states, or
I
just
don't
all
know
over the
exactly.
place?
I'm sorry, I don't have that.
Okay.
information.
But you don't necessarily see this as a. Is it fair to say that the states that don't use our system, some of them are harsher on criminals than we are, and vice versa?
I'm sure there is, yes.
Okay, all right, thank you. Thanks, Chair.
Sure. Any further questions? If not, we'll take a brief recess prior to taking the vote. Thank you for your patience. We're reconvening the Committee on Public Safety and Intergovernmental and Military Affairs and the Committee on Judiciary for decision-making on HCR 23 HD1. The 2 chairs have conferred. We want to make a number of amendments. The first being taking in LRB's amendments or suggested amendments, making sure that they clearly know what their role is. They have 3 suggested amendments. We will take the Corrections Commission suggestion about having it as a designee, and are going to take the ACLU's suggested amendments, which include having the Correction System Oversight Commission be a designee. They also want to have the chairperson or designee of Office of Hawaiian Affairs on this panel, and suggested 2 members of the public who have knowledge and expertise of criminal justice system, who have lived through and were victims of the justice system. I don't feel comfortable in being too prescriptive as to what types of crimes you need to be victimized for to be on this particular panel. So those are the suggested amendments to this measure. Any discussion? Yes. No.
Okay, your proposal would change the section that calls for 1 member of the public who has knowledge and expertise with the criminal justice system to 2 members.
Yes.
And are you also specifying, which may include experience with particular types of assaults, or are you?
No, we're going to just kind of keep that open and using the language that ACLU says, those who have lived through the criminal justice system and appointed by the Correctional System Oversight Commission. So if Martha and her group want to pick someone who's been a victim of rape or whatever they so choose, they can pick those 2 victims to be on the panel.
Okay, well, it just, I think in a lot of ways, with respect to some of the victim experiences in many instances. Oftentimes, victims, if they're not represented by, some body or coalition representative at kind of a higher level, it is very difficult for individual victims, to kind of make their way through the system. So hopefully the two will expand the category in a way that also includes victim representatives.
Do you like the idea of having someone who has been victimized through sex assault? Or, because I'm okay if the body feels that we should clearly outline who those victims are, it should be a panel. Do you want to?
Well, I think as long as the language specifies, which may include, sexual assault and other types of crimes. Because those would be the ones that have been most heavily impacted, when people are released or when instances occur, that family members or victims may become at risk. So of any, I would think those would be the ones where we would have the greatest level of concern, and we would want to have their participation and input.
Okay, so we want to support Pamela's suggestion about the two being those who have been victimized in sex assault as well as drunk drive.
Domestic violence.
Domestic violence, I'm sorry, domestic violence.
Yeah, I'm okay with that.
Okay. Yeah. Okay, so just to reiterate that amendments on the two members who have suffered through being a victim of sex assault and another individual who has been a victim of domestic violence are going to be the two specific members added to this task force. So
I don't object to those amendments, but I do think the focus of the bill really is a procedural one, just looking at why we're an outlier, but I don't think it's really, I don't think it's intended to make the system harsher or less harsh towards criminals. So I don't object, but I don't think that's the real point of the bill. I mean, the resident.
but you're okay with that?
I'm okay, yeah, sure.
So members, those are the suggested amendments. Any discussion, further discussion? If not, Senator Infante, I vote yes.
Chair's recommendations to pass with amendments HCR 23 HD1. Chair votes aye. Vice Chair votes aye. Senator Fukunaga.
Aye.
Senator McKelvey. Yes. Senator Owa. Aye. Mr. Chair, recommendations adopted.
For JDC members, same recommendation. Any questions or concerns? Seeing none, Vice Chair.
Okay, Chair Rhodes.
Aye.
Vice Chair votes aye. Senator Elefante.
Aye.
Senator San Buenaventura,
Excused.
excused. Senator Owa.
Aye.
Motion passes.
Great, thank you. We are adjourned. Aloha, thank you for your patience. We're convening the Committee on Public Safety and Intergovernmental and Military Affairs for our 301 agenda on this Friday, April 14th in room 225. We have one measure on this agenda, that is House Concurrent Resolution 103, encouraging all branches of the military to no longer put I can't pronounce this word. Yeah, that okay. So the testifiers list includes Department of Health in support, Department of Defense commentary, the Environmental Caucus of the Democratic Party in support, Military Affairs Council in support, John Bickle from Americans for Democratic Action in Hawaii in support, and we have Ted Boland, who is joining us via Zoom from the Hawaii Reef and Ocean Coalition. Welcome, Ted.
Thank you, Chair. Chair, thank you, Chair, Vice Chair, members of the committee. Ted Boland on behalf of the Hawaii Reef and Ocean Coalition in strong support of this resolution. PFAS, and you're wise not to try to pronounce it because I already embarrassed myself once this session trying to do it. These are called forever chemicals because they are designed to not go away. They can last for thousands of years. Recent information is that they're quite toxic to human health. EPA recently passed a very low standard of 4 parts per billion for 6 of them. There are hundreds of these chemicals. There's lots of information needed, but they're dangerous. And some of the highest levels of PFAS have been at military bases because they use aqueous film-forming foam, or AFFF, to suppress fire in their tests. And so we ask in this resolution, the resolution asks the U.S. military to reduce, to the extent possible, the use of products containing PFAS with certain exceptions, and to immediately discontinue the use of AFF except in an emergency and properly dispose of equipment, and be transparent in their disclosure. This is a great idea, given for example, the recent spill at Red Hill of PFAS. This is a problem that needs to be addressed, and the resolution will start to do that. So we very strongly favor this resolution and urge the committee to pass it. We thank you for the opportunity to testify, and I'm available if you have any questions.
Great. Thank you for joining us, Ted. We have testimony or commentary from Sherry Pollock, as well as B.A. McClintock has submitted testimony in support. Is there anyone else in the room or online that would like to testify on HCR 103? If not, members, any questions for Mr. Bowling? If not, I've conferred with myself and would like to suggest that we pass this measure out as is. Any discussion? Senator Elefante, I vote yes.
Chair's recommendations to pass as is HCR 103 HD1. Chair votes aye. Vice Chair votes aye. Senator Fukunaga. Senator McKelvey.
Yes.
Senator Awa.
Aye.
Mr. Chair, recommendations adopted.
Great, thank you. We're adjourned. Good, happy Friday afternoon for this Committee on Public Safety and Intergovernmental and Military Affairs on this April 14th at around 3:31 in room 225 at the Capitol. This hearing is being streamed live on YouTube. If we have any kind of technical issues, we will let you know through public notice as we are going to reconvene. And I know we have a huge number of people that want to testify on this measure, so we're going to limit your testimony to 25 minutes. Just kidding, to 1 minute. And we have one measure on this agenda, House Concurrent Resolution 40. We have Ed Sniffen or someone from DOT that might be joining us via Zoom.
Not present on Zoom, Chair.
We're missing out. James Barros from HAIMA.
Chairman, Vice Chairman, members of the committee, I'm Dan Rapkuk. I'm representing James Barros today on behalf of House HCR 40, and we stand in support of the measure.
Thank you, Dan. Hawaii Harbor Users Group has submitted testimony in support, as well as Matson also in support. Is there anyone else in the room or in Zoom land that would like to testify on HCR 40? If not, members, any questions for Dan?
Do you have vectors?
Huh?
Do you have vectors, Dan, for final? It's like a pilot.
Oh, yeah. Oh, that's true.
Pilot joke.
Looks like that. Air traffic controller. Okay, so having conferred with myself, I would like to recommend to the committee that we pass this measure out with technical non-substantive amendments. Any discussion? If not, Senator Elefante, I vote yes.
Chair's recommendations to pass HCR 40 with amendments. Chair votes aye. Vice Chair votes aye. Senator Fukunaga is excused. Senator McKelvey.
Yes.
Senator Awa.
Aye.
Mr. Chair, recommendations adopted.
Great. Happy weekend, everyone. We're adjourned.